If this video appeared on your screen right now, it's not by accident. It's because you crossed an invisible threshold. You just stepped into a corridor with no way back. And from this point on, the way you see reality will never be the same. Imagine this. While you think you're observing the world is also observing you. Every glance, every thought, every micro-emotion is mirrored back through the field. And the deeper truth? Everything changes when you change the way you look. Stay with me, because at minute 28, I'll share the single technique that shook my own reality more than anything else. And once you see it, you won't unsee it. The observer effect may sound like a scientific riddle, but it's simpler than you think. In quantum physics, just watching an experiment changes the outcome. Picture a tiny electron shifting its behavior the moment it's observed by a camera. Observation alone collapses probability waves into measurable form. And in daily life, the same principle plays out. When you focus on problems, more problems manifest. When you shift your gaze to gratitude, doors start opening in synchronicities you never expected. You're not only living inside reality, you're the one activating the invisible script that decides which reality unfolds. Attention isn't just a passive act of noticing, it's a creative command whispered into the quantum field. Imagine it like a flashlight moving across a dark room. Wherever that beam lands, form takes shape out of the shadows. Reality isn't a fixed object waiting to be discovered. It's a sea of quantum possibilities, waiting for observation to collapse probability waves into something tangible. The observer effect shows us that focus is not neutral. It's a code, silently programming your experienced reality with every thought, every glance, every emotional pulse you allow to linger. Think of the universe as a cosmic game of Tetris. All around you, infinite possibilities float like blocks waiting to land. When you observe through fear, the blocks stack chaotically, leaving no room to breathe. When you observe with love or excitement, the pieces fall into coherence, aligning perfectly as if guided by invisible hands. This is the hidden algorithm of creation. Your observation writes the rules, your attention arranges the patterns, and your consciousness decides which shapes manifest. The field is neutral, but it mirrors back what you feed it. I remember a season in my own life when I observed everything through scarcity. Every morning I woke up with thoughts like, there's not enough time, not enough money, not enough chances. And soon, my experience reality matched that focus. Projects stalled, relationships grew tense. Even my health seemed to collapse under that frequency. It was as if the quantum field was faithfully coding scarcity into every interaction, because my attention kept feeding it that instruction. I wasn't cursed. I was simply programming without realizing it. Then something shifted. I began to deliberately observe what was already abundant. The friend who always checked in, the small wins at work, the synchronicities showing up in the most random ways. As I focused on these, probability waves collapsed differently. The same world I had called empty revealed hidden gifts. Emails I had been waiting on suddenly arrived. New opportunities manifested where before there had only been silence. The code hadn't changed, my attention had, and the field responded with coherence as if grateful for a new signal. Attention then is not just awareness. It's currency in the quantum economy of creation. Spend it on fear, and you'll manifest more fear. Spend it on love, and reality bends toward expansion. Neuroscience even supports this. The unconscious mind filters billions of signals per second, showing you only what your focus has pre-approved. That means your observation literally edits what becomes visible, collapsing probabilities into one experienced reality. You're not a spectator here, you're a coder of the matrix itself. Practical example. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause and take inventory. Observe not what's missing, but what's already present. Write down 3 moments of synchronicity you've noticed lately, even small ones, like meeting someone who randomly had the exact book you were thinking about. By redirecting attention, you're teaching the field to reorganize its electromagnetic coherence around excitement instead of lack. It may sound simple, but it rewires the very architecture of your manifested life. Here lies the paradox. People often say they want abundance, yet keep observing scarcity. They pray for love but observe loneliness, hoping reality will change first. But the quantum field doesn't respond to wants. It responds to focus. Like a mirror, it doesn't reflect what you desire to see. It reflects what you're actually showing it. That's why manifestation isn't about chasing. It's about choosing where to shine the flashlight of consciousness and allowing infinite possibilities to arrange themselves around that signal. So the truth becomes clear. You don't attract what you want. You activate what you observe. Attention is both the lock and the key, both the code and the command. When you shift it, probability waves rearrange, frequency tunes itself, and your experienced reality rewrites its script. The observer effect isn't abstract physics. It's a daily practice of noticing how your conscious and unconscious focus shapes the unfolding of life. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. The mind is not the only observer. The body itself is constantly broadcasting signals into the quantum field. Every breath, every posture, every tension or release is a message encoded in frequency. While thought sets direction, the body provides the actual transmission. Think of it as an electromagnetic antenna, radiating coherence or incoherence depending on your state. The observer effect reminds us that the field doesn't only listen to what we think, it listens to what we embody. Your reality, then, is not just the product of conscious words, but of unconscious physiology, shaping what's possible. Consider this. Someone can say, "I am at peace," yet their shoulders are tight, their jaw clenched, their breath shallow. The quantum field isn't deceived by language. It mirrors the signal of tension. Observation is more than mental focus. It's somatic presence. The probability waves collapse not around affirmations, but around embodied frequency. In other words, your posture and emotions are part of your creative power, silently coding reality. That's why coherence between thought and body is the true gateway to manifestation. I recall moments in my own life when I repeated affirmations like a mantra. I am abundant, I am free. But my body was screaming something else. My stomach was knotted, my chest heavy, my nervous system locked in survival mode. Nothing manifested because my observation was fractured. The field doesn't respond to repetition, it responds to coherence. Only when I paired attention with conscious breathing, loosening the body into love and excitement, did synchronicities begin to appear, aligning my experienced reality with the words I spoke. Think of your body like an instrument. If the strings are out of tune, no matter how beautiful the sheet music is, the sound will be dissonant. The same applies to creation. You might have clear intentions, but if your nervous system is vibrating in fear, you're broadcasting noise. When you breathe deeply, open your chest, soften your gaze, you retune the instrument. Suddenly, the probability waves collapse into harmony, and manifestation flows with less resistance. The body is the hidden coder, constantly observing on your behalf. Here's a simple practice. The next time you affirm something, pause. Close your eyes, inhale slowly, and notice where tension lives in your body. Maybe your shoulders carry unconscious fear, or your stomach holds unspoken grief. As you observe and release, you bring the unconscious into consciousness. This act of aligning body and mind creates electromagnetic coherence. The quantum field picks up on that harmony, amplifying your focus into tangible manifestation. Observation becomes full spectrum, not half-hearted. Science echoes this truth. HeartMath studies show that heart-brain coherence changes electromagnetic fields around the body, influencing not only personal well-being, but external outcomes. When the body enters coherence, probability waves collapse in favor of higher-order synchronicities. Love and gratitude amplify this state, while fear locks you in lower frequencies. This means that paying attention to your body isn't just wellness advice, it's a quantum strategy for creation. You're literally reshaping experienced reality through embodied observation. Many ignore the body, assuming the mind alone is enough. But the unconscious is stored in the body, in the way you breathe, the way you sit, the way you walk into a room. Your body remembers traumas, habits, and emotional scripts. If left unchecked, these unconscious signals become the true observer, quietly collapsing possibilities on your behalf. Awareness is not complete until you integrate the body into the process. Observation without embodiment is like writing code that never runs, empty commands with no execution. So let this sink in. Manifestation is not just a thought exercise, it's a full-bodied act of attention and coherence. The quantum field doesn't hear words alone, it feels frequencies. Your reality shifts, not when you say, "I am free," but when your breath, posture, and emotion embody freedom. The body also observes, and when it aligns with consciousness, infinite possibilities open, like doors you didn't know existed. Reality obeys not only what you think, but what you radiate. Even when someone decides to change, the old self often keeps observing reality on their behalf. It's like running new software on a computer that still has outdated code operating in the background. You may set an intention, focus your attention, even visualize a new possibility. But if the unconscious observer remains the same, the probability waves collapse in favor of the old program. The observer effect doesn't lie. Your experienced reality is not only shaped by conscious focus, but also by the invisible scripts running silently underneath. This old self is built from years of repetition. The same thoughts, the same emotions, the same reactions carved into neural pathways. It becomes a pilot automatic, constantly observing through filters of fear, scarcity, or doubt. You might tell yourself, "I am abundant," but the unconscious observer says, "I never have enough," and the field listens to that. Observation is not just about words spoken in the conscious mind, it's about the identity still radiating from the unconscious body. Reality reflects that deeper broadcast. I once experienced this vividly when I tried to manifest freedom in my career. I kept focusing on possibility, but deep down, my old self was still observing through fear of failure. I'd grown up with scarcity, and that observer still lived in me. Every time an opportunity arose, I hesitated, shrinking back. And, as expected, the quantum field reflected those collapses. The manifestation wasn't blocked, it was simply aligning with the frequency of the old observer, faithfully replaying my unconscious code. Think of it like running two programs at once. One says expand, the other says stay small. The unconscious usually wins because it runs with more energy and repetition. It's like a background app draining the battery of your consciousness. Unless you bring awareness to it, the old self keeps collapsing probabilities into the same experienced reality you're trying to escape. To change the script, you must identify who is observing, not just consciously, but deep within the unconscious mind and body. A practical way to do this is to watch your triggers. When someone criticizes you, do you observe through love or through fear? When money feels tight, do you observe scarcity or possibility? These are not random reactions. They are the fingerprints of the old observer. Keeping a journal of these moments helps bring the unconscious into the conscious. By naming the old observer, the doubter, the survivor, the fearful one, you weaken its grip and reclaim focus. Awareness is the first collapse into change. This process is uncomfortable because the old observer resists. It thrives on familiarity. even if that familiarity breeds suffering. That's why people repeat toxic relationships, stagnant jobs, or limiting beliefs. The unconscious observer prefers what is known over what is possible. The quantum field doesn't judge, it simply reflects. Unless you consciously interrupt the pattern, the same probability waves collapse again and again, and you call it fate. But in truth, it is observation recycling itself through identity. Here's a helpful analogy. Imagine you're wearing old glasses with scratched lenses. No matter where you look, everything seems distorted. Those lenses are your old self, coloring observation before it reaches the field. Changing reality without changing the observer is like trying to fix the world by cleaning the mirror while your glasses remain dirty. The first step is recognizing that your vision has been shaped by an outdated filter. Only then can you observe with fresh clarity. So the lesson is clear. You can't manifest a new life with the same observer that created the old one. To reprogram your experienced reality, you must expose the unconscious observer and shift its focus. Attention alone is not enough. Identity must evolve. The quantum field is always listening, but it responds to who you are being, not just what you say you want. The old self may still be observing for you, but once you see it, you hold the power to replace it with a new witness of infinite possibilities. The universe doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to who you believe you are. Think of it as a neural mirror, one that reflects not the surface of your makeup, but the tension in your muscles, the micro-expressions written into your nervous system. Observation here is identity-based. Whatever you unconsciously observe yourself to be, the quantum field reflects back with precision. The observer effect teaches us that reality isn't impressed by words. It's calibrated to states of consciousness that are constantly broadcasting into the field. I once told myself I trust the process, yet every action I took screamed fear. I checked emails obsessively, worried about outcomes, and tightened my body as if preparing for loss. The field didn't respond to the phrase, "I trust." It mirrored the frequency of fear. Probability waves collapsed around my unconscious signal, not my conscious declaration. This is why manifestation often feels elusive. Reality aligns with what you embody, not with what you recite. Your observation is more somatic than verbal. An analogy may help. Imagine standing before a mirror saying, "I am smiling," while frowning deeply. The mirror doesn't care about your words. It reflects your expression. The quantum field operates the same way. Consciousness is the face, reality the reflection. The mirror of creation doesn't bend to affirmations spoken without coherence. It bends when identity and state are aligned, when the unconscious observer is retrained to embody the reality you claim to desire. That's when true creation begins. Here's a practical exercise. Observe your micro-actions. If you say, "I am abundant," but hoard every penny with fear, your state is still scarcity. If you say, "I am loved," yet shrink back from intimacy, your body is broadcasting mistrust. The field mirrors these subtle signals. Try shifting one behavior to match the identity you claim. Buy a small gift without fear, or open your chest when speaking to someone. These embodied acts rewrite the neural code the mirror reflects. Science supports this mirror analogy. Neuroscience shows that mirror neurons fire when observing states in others, aligning behavior unconsciously. The quantum field acts as a macro version of this, reflecting not only the external but also the internal observation. The field mirrors your coherence, collapsing probability waves into experiences that echo your frequency. The more consistent your embodied state, the clearer the reflection becomes. Manifestation is simply the universe holding up your identity for you to see. This explains why people often feel stuck. They affirm new realities while carrying old neural patterns. They observe through outdated identities, and the mirror keeps reflecting the same image. Without changing the one who stands before the mirror, the reflection cannot change. Observation here is identity locked in place, and the field, loyal as ever, mirrors it back. It's not punishment, it's coherence. The universe reflects what's consistent, not what's convenient. I remember when I shifted from fear-driven action to trust-based embodiment. Instead of saying, "I trust," I practiced releasing control, slower breathing, open body language, pausing before reacting. The shift was subtle, but soon synchronicities appeared, phone calls at the right moment, opportunities unfolding without force. The mirror was reflecting my new face, the identity I had begun to embody. The change wasn't external first. It was internal observation, recalibrated through frequency. So here's the truth. The universe is not listening to your mouth. It's watching your stance. Reality doesn't reflect the words, "I am free," unless freedom is the state of the one speaking. Everything changes when you stop begging the mirror to change and instead transform the one standing in front of it. The quantum field is that mirror, a neural vibrational reflection that collapses probabilities into coherence. Change your state, and the reflection follows without resistance. Reprogramming the observer begins the moment you catch yourself watching life through fear. The unconscious mind loves to slip back into old scripts, but awareness creates a pause, and in that pause lies infinite possibilities. A simple practice is to close your eyes, take a slow breath and ask, "Who is observing right now?" This question interrupts the autopilot, collapsing the old probability wave before it solidifies. The observer effect shows that attention is the true reset button. By shifting it, you literally rewrite experienced reality. I call this the observer reset. It's deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful. Every time you notice scarcity, doubt, or tension hijacking your focus, use the reset. Breath becomes your anchor, silence your doorway. In that moment, you are no longer the unconscious observer repeating old code. You become the conscious programmer. And with repetition, this small shift trains the nervous system to embody new states, creating electromagnetic coherence that the field cannot ignore. I once worked with this practice during a season of constant stress. Deadlines, bills, and personal fears weighed heavily. Each time I caught my body tightening, I paused, reset, and asked, "Who is watching this?" At first, nothing changed, but over weeks, synchronicities began appearing, opportunities that matched the new observer rather than the old. What had once felt like chaos started collapsing into order. Reality was reconfiguring, not because the outside changed, but because the observer did. An analogy helps. Think of your observer as a camera lens. If the lens is scratched or dirty, no matter how beautiful the scenery, the image will blur. Resetting the observer is like wiping the lens clean, allowing the infinite possibilities of the quantum field to come into sharper focus. You don't change the landscape, you change the lens. Observation transforms probability waves into clarity, and coherence replaces distortion. Here's how to apply it practically. Set 3 reminders on your phone each day, labeled "Reset the Observer." When they go off, pause whatever you're doing, close your eyes, and breathe. Ask, "Am I observing through fear or love right now?" This micro-intervention rewires unconscious patterns and builds new pathways of focus. With consistency, it becomes a habit, and soon your body naturally begins to observe from higher frequencies without force. Reality then bends toward coherence effortlessly. This practice echoes wisdom from both ancient traditions and modern neuroscience. Mindfulness traditions speak of the witness state, while quantum studies show how observation collapses probability into measurable outcomes. The two converge here. The more often you reset, the more you collapse possibilities in alignment with love, excitement, and creation instead of fear. Your manifested life begins to reflect the conscious observer, not the unconscious shadow. That is the essence of reprogramming. Of course, resistance will appear. The old self, with its familiar observation, will tug you back. You may feel restless, impatient, or doubtful. That's natural. It means the old program is dissolving. Every reset weakens its hold, collapsing those probability waves into silence. Over time, the field begins to mirror not what you used to be, but who you are becoming. The shift is gradual, but it is permanent if embodied with persistence. So remember, you can't fight the old observer with willpower alone. You reprogram it by interrupting its gaze and offering a new one. The reset of the observer is a daily ritual, a quiet rebellion against unconscious observation. Through it, the quantum field learns to recognize a new identity, one aligned with infinite possibilities. And slowly but surely, the mirror changes. Reality rewrites itself, and manifestation becomes less of a struggle and more of a natural flow. Reality is not a rigid wall. It's a frequency broadcast. What we call experienced reality is simply one station tuned in from an infinite field of quantum possibilities. Change the frequency, and the show changes. The observer effect reveals that attention is the dial, consciousness the tuner, and coherence the signal that locks it in place. When your internal state shifts, probability waves collapse into new expressions. Reality is less like a stone and more like a song, invisible, flexible, waiting to be tuned. Think of a television. All channels exist simultaneously, but you only see the one your antenna is tuned to. Similarly, the quantum field holds infinite possibilities, each vibrating at its own electromagnetic frequency. By observing through fear, you lock onto one channel, maybe scarcity or conflict. By observing through love, excitement, or coherence, you shift to another, abundance, synchronicities, creation. Reality is not external destiny. It's an internal broadcast mirrored outward. You don't wait for it to change. You change the dial. I've lived this firsthand. There was a time when everything felt blocked. Relationships, finances, opportunities. The more I pushed, the more resistance I met. But when I shifted my focus inward, cultivating gratitude and calm instead of fear, synchronicities multiplied. Unexpected calls, new offers and doors opened without struggle. It wasn't magic, it was resonance. My frequency shifted and the field responded by collapsing possibilities in alignment with that vibration. Reality wasn't fixed, it was responsive. The science is simple, but profound. Brainwave studies show that shifting from stress-driven beta states to coherent alpha states expands perception, revealing probabilities the stressed mind cannot see. In quantum terms, probability waves collapse differently depending on the frequency of observation. That's why dreams, meditation, or deep relaxation often birth creative power. In those states, you're tuned to higher frequencies, opening yourself to infinite possibilities that are otherwise hidden by noise. Here's a practical example. Imagine feeling stuck in a job. Instead of obsessing over escape, shift your frequency by observing what excites you, even in small ways. Maybe reading inspiring books, practicing breathwork, or taking creative classes after work. As your internal coherence rises, you'll notice synchronicities, unexpected introductions, sudden insights, opportunities you couldn't see before. These aren't coincidences. They are the field reflecting the new frequency you've tuned into. Reality rearranges around coherence. Fear tricks us into believing reality is hard and immovable, but fear itself is just a frequency, a low channel that narrows perception. When you observe through love or excitement, you expand probability. Suddenly, new paths appear that seemed impossible before. This isn't positive thinking, it's frequency-based manifestation. You don't deny fear, you retune beyond it. The observer effect ensures that what you observe most consistently becomes the reality you live. The mirror never lies. It reflects your broadcast. Even small shifts create massive ripples. One morning of coherent focus can bring synchronicities that redirect entire timelines. That's why meditation, music, or even silence can feel so powerful. They recalibrate the internal tuner, collapsing new possibilities into view. Reality is fluid, not fixed. Every moment is a chance to broadcast a different signal, to choose which probability waves will solidify into your experience. Infinite possibilities are always present, waiting for your attention to call them forth. So the conclusion is simple, but liberating. Reality is frequential, not final. You are not trapped by circumstance, you are tuned into it, and because tuning can change, possibilities are endless. The key is to stop waiting for reality to prove it has shifted. You shift first, and reality follows. You don't need to chase signs. You are the signal. When coherence aligns your consciousness, body, and focus, the field has no choice but to respond. Reality bends because frequency leads. The greatest power of the observer is found in a place most people overlook, the silence before the gaze. In that micro-moment, before the mind names, labels, or judges, lies pure consciousness, untouched by conditioning. This is the zero-point field where probability waves float, uncollapsed, where infinite possibilities still breathe. When you observe without rushing to define, the quantum field responds differently. The observer effect isn't just about looking, it's about how you look, and whether silence precedes the act of observing. Imagine holding a snow globe in your hands. If you shake it, the flakes scatter chaotically. But if you pause and remain still, everything settles. Clarity returns. The same happens in consciousness. Silence is the settling of the inner storm, a pause where unconscious programming loosens its grip. In that state, your gaze becomes clean and observation collapses possibilities into higher coherence. Without silence, your observation is noise. With silence, it's creation. Reality obeys the purity of the gaze that follows stillness. I practiced this once during a period of constant anxiety. My instinct was to keep observing through fear, scanning for problems to solve. But when I began stopping for just 15 seconds, sitting in silence, breathing, observing without judgment, my frequency shifted. Synchronicities began to unfold almost instantly. It was as if the field had been waiting for me to quiet down before delivering the probability waves I'd been chasing. Silence was the doorway to coherence. A practical exercise. Choose an object near you, a leaf, a glass of water, even your own hand. Spend 15 seconds observing it without naming it, without telling a story about it. Just notice its presence. Feel how your attention softens, how time slows, how the body relaxes into coherence. This kind of observing is a reset for both mind and nervous system. The electromagnetic field around you shifts, and reality begins to mirror that coherence. Creation flows from silence. The dream state offers a similar clue. In dreams, before thought interferes, possibilities move freely. When you bring waking observation into silence, you mimic that dream state, a place where infinite possibilities are accessible. That's why many creative breakthroughs, inventions, and insights arise in moments of stillness rather than noise. The unconscious aligns with consciousness, and the field collapses probability waves into manifestation effortlessly. Silence isn't absence. It's the birthplace of creation. Science whispers the same truth. Studies show that the brain in states of quiet observation enters alpha-theta rhythms, frequencies associated with creativity, intuition, and coherence. In those rhythms, the electromagnetic field of the body shifts, expanding perception. Silence before the gaze tunes you to the hidden frequencies of the quantum field. It's not mystical, it's physics, married to consciousness. Observation without noise collapses probabilities into clarity, while noise collapses them into repetition. This is why many spiritual traditions emphasize stillness, meditation, or prayerful pauses before action. It's not superstition. It's a way of ensuring that what you observe isn't filtered by fear or unconscious programs. When silence precedes attention, love rather than fear directs the gaze. The field responds with synchronicities, with coherence, with manifestations aligned to your higher self. Silence is the calibration moment, the space where the observer is purified. So remember this, the silence before the gaze is the hidden key. Reality doesn't just obey your observation, it obeys the state from which you observe. If you pause, breathe, and enter the quiet, your gaze carries creative power, unclouded by noise. Infinite possibilities rest in that moment, and when you look from silence, the quantum field collapses not into fear, but into love, coherence, and creation. In that space, reality doesn't resist you, it obeys. So here's the essence. You don't attract what you want, you activate what you observe. Reality isn't fixed. It bends to the gaze you bring, collapsing probability waves into coherence. When attention, body, and silence align, the field mirrors back synchronicities, love, and creation. Your task is simple: pause, breathe, and reset the observer. Notice whether fear or love is watching through your eyes. Each shift changes the frequency, and with it, your experienced reality. If this message resonated, anchor it now. Type "I observe consciously" in the comments. And to continue this journey, watch the next video. The field is waiting for your gaze.